I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Aloha, welcome to Unity Church of Maui's Sunday service. It's great to have you here. I want to tell you a fun little story. A priest was called away on an emergency, and he didn't want to leave the confessional unattended. So he called his rabbi friend across the street and asked him to cover for him. The rabbi told him, gosh, I really don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. And the priest says, oh, don't worry. Come on over. I'll show you what you need to do. So the rabbi comes over and they both get inside the confessional. And in a few minutes, a woman comes in and she says, Father, please forgive me, for I have sinned. And the priest says, what did you do, my dear? The woman says, I committed adultery. And the priest says, how many times? And the woman says, 3 times. And the priest says, oh, say 3 Hail Marys and put $5 in the box and go and sin no more. A few minutes later, a man enters and he comes in the confessional and he says, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. And the priest asked, what did you do, my son? And the man says, I committed adultery. And the priest says, how many times? And the man says, 3 times. And the priest says, well, say 3 Hail Marys and put $5 in the box and go and sin no more. So the rabbi and the priest are satisfied that the rabbi knows what to do now. So the priest leaves the rabbi in the confessional. And a few minutes later, a woman enters the confessional. And she sits down and she says, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. And the rabbi asked, what did you do? And the woman says, I committed adultery. The rabbi asked, how many times? And the woman says, 1 time. And the rabbi says, oh, go and do it 3 more times. We have 2 more times. We have a special this week, 3 for $5. So I want to share one of my favorite Bible stories with you. And we'll look at it historically and literally, and then we'll look at it metaphysically and see what does this story actually have to do with us. And it comes from John chapter 8, verse 1. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Early in the morning, he came again to the temple. All of the people came to him, and he sat down and began to teach to them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery. And making her stand before all of them, they said to him, Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of adultery. Now, in the law, Moses commanded us to stone this woman. Now, what do you say? And they said this to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. So Jesus bent down and he wrote with his finger in the ground. And they continued to ask him as he stood up and he said to them, let anyone who is without sin be the first to cast a stone. And once again, he bent down and wrote with his finger in the ground. And all of those present dropped their stones and left. And then Jesus said to the woman, Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you? And she said, No, sir, not one. And Jesus said, Neither do I condemn you. So go on your way. From now on, do not sin anymore. I love this story. So let's look at there's basically 5 characters or 5 groups of characters in this story. Let's look at them and see what they mean for us. The scribes and the Pharisees are individuals who are accustomed to judging and condemning others. They were considered the enlightened citizens in those days. And then we have the adulteress who was caught in the act of adultery. And then we have all of those present, the ones present with the stones in their hands. And then we have Jesus. Now Jesus is in kind of a precarious situation that was set up here by the scribes and the Pharisees to try and get him to make a mistake. And so he had a dilemma. He had to decide, did he go with the Mosaic law, the law of Moses, and stone her, to stone this woman? Or did he just tell them to let her go? Or did he ignore the whole situation and walk away and perhaps save his skin? And then the fifth character in the story is the one that's not there, and that's the man who was involved in the adultery with this woman. I've always wondered, where was that guy? How come he didn't show up? So let's look at all these characters now from a metaphysical point of view or from a spiritual point of view, because they all represent aspects of ourselves on our journey to enlightenment. Jesus represents our Christ self, right? He represents that part of us that's totally focused on the absolute truth. He represents that part of us that can look within and capture what is the essence and the highest good for all, and what is it that Spirit desires for him to express. And then there's the Mount of Olives. The story starts out that Jesus had just come from the Mount of Olives. And anytime a mountain or an upper room is used in a Bible story, it represents a higher consciousness. So Jesus, just coming from the Mount of Olives, demonstrates that he has been in this place of higher consciousness, where he's totally connected to the essence of who he is. And then there's the temple, and the temple is kind of it's where the spiritual rubber meets the road, right? It's where man connects with spirit on the physical plane. And then there's the scribes and the Pharisees, and I love the scribes and the Pharisees in the Bible. They were the wise ones, right? They were the one with the knowledge. And the scribes and the Pharisees represent that inner critic that we have. Well, maybe you don't have it, but I have it. It's that inner part of us that's always judging us and condemning us and saying, oh, you should have done this, or you should have done that, or what were you thinking? Ever have that voice? So they're the inner critic. And then the woman who committed adultery represents the sort of the unspiritualized, the naive part of us that hasn't fully captured the idea of the spiritual idea in any particular moment. She represents us when we're sort of not connected to the essence of who we are. And then there's the man. Where is the man? The man represents that part of us that's not willing to grow spiritually, right? Essentially not willing to show up and be present. It's like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. I'm not going to deal with that spiritual issues. It's not about that for me. It tries to ignore the spiritual truth. And the part of the story that I really love is when a couple times when Jesus turns away from all this stuff and he kneels down and he writes with his finger in the ground. And to me, it's like he's taking all this stuff, he's taking all this in, and then he's turning away from it and he's bending down and touching the ground as if he's connecting with the sense and the truth, right? He's really getting grounded in what the truth is. And I love that. He's taking all of this stuff, he's weighing it, what is the best way to respond? And then he rises up and expresses his truth. And the truth of it is that there is an inner source within each of us, within me, within you, that has access to that truth, to that divine wisdom as Jesus showed us in this story. We all have access to that truth. And we can be blinded in a sense, by the desire not to want to tap into our spiritual side. We can be distracted by the voices, the scribes and the Pharisees, by the negative critic inside of us, or when we can find so many ways to distract ourselves, and in essence to block ourselves from experiencing our spiritual power when we don't connect with our higher self. Now, this story is really interesting to me because, as kind of rough as it sounds, we all commit spiritual adultery at some point. And you might be going, "Oh no, not me! I never commit adultery." But we have to look at really what does adultery mean, and it just means to adulterate, or to contaminate, or to dilute something, which is kind of what happens when we are spiritually off center and we let our erroneous thoughts or feelings or beliefs intercept our spiritual truth and keep us from connecting with our higher selves. Adultery means to take something that's pure and add something to it that pollutes it. And I think there are basically 3 times when we can commit spiritual adultery. And the first one is to ourselves. When we adulterate the truth of who we are and choose to believe other things about ourselves that aren't true. I know for myself, like my spiritual journey seems to be in this lifetime about facing the erroneous thought that comes through my mind that tells me that I don't have the right idea, or that I'm not smart enough, or that I'm not able to access the truth. And this can be, I can often see this in myself, and other people can project it to me in a sense unconsciously, but I can assume it sometimes by what they say. I can get into this place of thinking that's what's happening, and then adulterate my own thinking and my truth about myself, and become insecure or feel like I'm just not whole and complete. And what I've found is the solution for this is to recognize it when it happens, and then to sort of go into my heart and just kind of check in with my heart and to ask, is this really true? And I know when I am in that place of connection, I know the peace and the truth of who I am, that I am a perfect expression of God. And even in those times when I'm feeling some doubt, I can remember that that the doubt is natural. That's the job of the scribes and the Pharisees, and to let myself move out of that by affirming the truth for myself, and affirming that I have access to that wisdom, and affirming that I am operating out of that place of integrity and truth, and being able to be at peace. We can also dilute, pollute, and adulterate our relationship with other people. When we are selfish, when we're inconsiderate, when we're dishonest, when we're judgmental, and when we fail to communicate our truth with them. When we sort of cover up our truth with and don't communicate fully the truth of who we are and the truth of who they are and how we see them. I think it's so much a part of our job to behold the Christ in others, as first of all, we behold it in ourselves, then we behold it in others. And we can also dilute, adulterate our relationship with Spirit, with God, when we believe that this presence is separate from us. When we forget that we have access to this higher power within ourselves, we dilute the power of this presence, because when we think it's outside here, we don't recognize that we have the ability to act from it, and we block our power to express it by thinking it's outside of us. And also, if we think of God as a condemning God or a judgmental God or some God out here that's trying to condemn us, those very beliefs block us from experiencing our truth and being the presence of love and light in the world. You know, to adulterate God is not to see the love of God and not to experience and express the love of God. And when we can get into this fearful place and seeing God as something outside of us and not within us, then we lose our connection to the essence and to the allness of that love that is the very essence of who we are. So how can we avoid adulterating spiritual adultery or mental adultery? I think Paul said it really good in Philippians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. He said, "Finally, my beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there be anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. And the God of peace will be with you." Wow, I love that. You know, Jesus taught that if we focus on the beautiful things, if we focus on what is true, if we focus on light, if we are aware that the presence and the kingdom of heaven is right here in this moment and live from that, then we are able to live lives that are true and pleasing. Jesus said to the people, "Let anyone who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." You know, when we talk badly about ourselves, we are committing adultery in a sense that we're picking up a stone and throwing it at ourselves. When we talk badly about others, we're forgetting to behold the Christ in them. When we are selfish, when we're inconsiderate, dishonest, judgmental, and when we fail to communicate our truth, then we are polluting the collective consciousness and preventing the essence of God to express fully in and through and as us. When we hold limited or erroneous beliefs about God, we're limiting God's potential. When we see ourselves as separate from God, we limit God's ability to express in and through and as us with its full power. So I've got some affirmations for you to use this week. And I hope that you'll take them and use them when you feel like you've stepped into a polluted or diluted or adulterated situation. And the first one is, I live from my heart. The second one is, I see the Christ presence in everyone. And the third one is, I am one with God. So if you came to me this week and you said, Reverend Blaine, I committed mental or spiritual adultery, I would say to you, you are blessed. And we have a special this week. Say these affirmations 3 times and go and have a prosperous life. So let's take them each again and say them together. The first one is, I live from my heart. Let's say that together. I live from my heart. Whew. Feel that. Let's say it again. I live from my heart. Feel the power in that. The second one is, I see the Christ presence in everyone. Let's say it together. I see the Christ presence in everyone. Feel that. Be that. Allow that to be how you see everyone this week. And the third one is, I am one with God. Let's say that together. I am one with God. And just let yourself feel the strength and the power of that. As you say that, the presence of God kind of goes, whoo, kind of wakes up. Because that is the truth of you. I am one with God. Let's say it again. I am one with God. And I invite you to close your eyes. And let's take a deep breath, breathing into this moment, recognizing the presence of God, of Spirit, of truth right here in this moment. We are one with God. One with our thoughts, our feelings, all that we are. And imagine as you breathe in and relax into this moment, imagine that you can let your awareness move into the area around your heart. And see yourself living from this place beautifully, a perfect expression of Spirit. I live from my heart. We live from our heart. One Spirit, one presence, one love. And then imagine that you can open your spiritual eyes and behold all life. And to see this Christ essence, this light, this love in all creation. I see the Christ presence in everyone. I see the Christ presence everywhere. And then remember the truth, that we are one with that presence, one with God. I am one with God. I am. Feel the essence of that. Being one with all life. Breathing in and breathing out. And let's take just a few moments to just to be in this delicious place. And let's do that for a moment or two in the silence. Breathing into this oneness, into this essence of life that we are. Thank you, loving Spirit. Thank you, presence of God in us, in the universe, in all life, on this beautiful planet and in the universe. And I invite you to begin to breathe in and bring your awareness back to this moment right now. Thank you. So it is. Namaste. Thank you for being with us today. It's such a blessed time to be alive on this planet. Thank you, God. And so it is. Let's see. I invite you at this time to prepare your love offering, your contributions to Unity Church of Maui, and to thank you in advance for who you are, and thank you for being a part of this ministry as you give to this ministry. It is by and through your gifts that we are so blessed to be able to do this work, and I feel so honored to be the minister of this ministry and to be able to have such an amazing community around me. And so as you take your gifts, you hold it in your mind or in your hands, let's affirm together our prayer and affirmation of prosperity, which begins through a grateful, giving heart. My mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Thank you. And you can contribute to Unity Church of Maui by going online to our website and donating there. It's a safe link to offer a donation to us, and you can also send in a check the old-fashioned way, addressed to Unity Church of Maui at 483 South High Street in Wailuku, Hawaii. And thank you for your gifts. Let's see, I got just a couple announcements today. Next week, my talk is titled, The Universe is Calling, Will We Answer? And I like this idea because we know that we have access to the universal truth and to the essence of this planet. And I believe that we're being called forth at this time right now to connect with Spirit and to operate in powerful ways on this planet. And Eric Butterworth, a famous Unity minister and writer, wrote that we are an eachness in the allness of God. So we'll look at next week, how can we connect ourselves even deeper, become part of this allness of God? And how can we listen to the universe, and what can we be as we make that connection? So that'll be happening right here next week at the same time. If you enjoy our Sunday lessons, you can always go to our YouTube page where you'll find our lessons up there. And we are working on getting our lessons and our music on our webpage. Right now we can't put our music on our YouTube page or on Facebook. That's why we've gone to doing our talks on Zoom. So keep up with us. Things seem like they're always changing, and it's our desire to always offer you something that touches your soul and inspires your spirit on Sunday morning. And you can also connect with us on Wednesday at noon for our daily word and meditation. And the link to that Zoom, it's on Zoom, that's in our newsletter and on our website as well. So I think that's all we have for today. Thank you. It's an honor and a blessing to be with you. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I behold the Christ in you. And so as a way of bringing our service to a close today, let us affirm together the prayer for protection, which begins, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you, my friend. Mahalo and aloha.